Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins History, everyone. If you're someone who enjoys treasure hunting, coin collecting, or just learning about the hidden gems sitting in your pocket change, you're in for a real treat today. Because in this video, we're going to uncover the incredible story of the 1968 Lincoln penny, yes, just 1 cent, that might be worth a life-changing amount of money today. Stay with us, because the value of this tiny coin will absolutely blow your mind by the end of the video. Let's take a journey back to the year 1968. The Beatles were dominating the radio, Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy was inspiring millions, and the United States was in the middle of enormous social and political change. In the midst of this historical whirlwind, the U.S. Mint was doing its job, quietly producing billions of coins for everyday use. One of those coins was the humble Lincoln penny, a small copper piece that most people didn't give a second thought to. But here's the twist: not all of these pennies were created equal. The 1968 Lincoln penny came in different variations depending on where it was minted. You might notice a small letter under the date, either a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. Some pennies from that year don't have any mint mark at all, which means they were produced in Philadelphia. Most of these were produced in massive quantities, worn down in circulation, and forgotten in pockets, drawers, and piggy banks. But a few, a very few, are far from ordinary. Let's talk design. The front of the 1968 penny, or obverse side, features the familiar profile of President Abraham Lincoln. This portrait has been on the penny since 1909, making it one of the most iconic and longest-running coin designs in the world. Below Lincoln's portrait, you'll find the date, 1968, and possibly a mint mark. On the reverse side, you'll see the classic Lincoln Memorial, with the tiny statue of Lincoln visible between the pillars if you look closely. This design, introduced in 1959, replaced the earlier wheat ears reverse and became a staple for decades. Now, here's where things get really exciting, because not all 1968 pennies are just average pieces of copper. Some of them have something unique that makes collectors go wild. One of the most sought-after versions is the 1968 S penny, minted in San Francisco. Why? Because some of these coins were not regular circulation coins, they were proof coins, made specifically for collectors. Proof coins are struck using specially prepared dies and polished planchets, giving them a mirror-like finish and exceptional detail. Most of these proof coins were never meant to be used in everyday transactions, and certainly not lost in circulation, but here's the mystery: some of these proof pennies did end up in circulation. And then there's the truly rare treasure, the 1968 S Lincoln penny with a doubling error on the lettering. Known as a double die obverse, this minting mistake causes the letters "In Liberty, In God We Trust," or even the date to appear slightly overlapped or shadowed, giving the illusion of a double print. If you spot one of these rare double die pennies from 1968, you're looking at something incredibly special. Even among error coins, the doubling on the 1968 S penny is considered one of the most dramatic and valuable. The reason? Minting technology in the 60s wasn't as precise as it is today, so errors like this were more common, but still incredibly rare in this specific year and mint combination. And it's not just the error that makes it valuable. The coin's condition matters a lot. Coins that have never been used and still shine like the day they were minted are known as uncirculated or mint state. The higher the grade, the higher the value. And if your coin has both a dramatic error and a near-perfect condition, you're sitting on a jackpot. So, how do you know if your 1968 penny is one of the rare ones? First, grab a magnifying glass and inspect the date and lettering closely. If you see any signs of doubling or strange marks, that's a red flag, in a good way. Next, check for the S mint mark beneath the date. And finally, if the coin looks unusually shiny or crisp, it might be a proof coin, especially if you see no signs of wear. If all three of these features match up, it's time to get that coin professionally appraised. Coin collectors around the world are constantly hunting for these elusive 1968 S Lincoln pennies with doubling errors. And when one of them shows up at a major coin auction, it can spark a bidding war among serious collectors and investors. The value of rare pennies like these has steadily increased over the years, with more and more people realizing the hidden potential in these tiny copper discs. Now for the moment you've been waiting for. Imagine finding a coin that you thought was worth 1 cent, only to discover it could change your financial future. It might seem unbelievable, but one of these rare 1968 Lincoln pennies, with a clear doubling error, in pristine condition, has sold at auction for a staggering $75,000. That's right. 1 cent turned into $75,000. All because of a tiny mistake at the mint and the sharp eye of a collector who knew what to look for. So the next time you're sorting through your spare change or flipping through an old coin jar, don't ignore that little penny from 1968. You never know, it might just be your lucky day. Today, we're diving into the story of one of the most iconic coins in US history, a coin you've probably seen 1,000 times without realizing that just one rare version of it could be worth a life-changing amount of money. We're talking about the 1974 Lincoln penny. And let me tell you, this is not just any ordinary 1-cent coin. By the end of this video, you might find yourself scrambling through your coin jar or searching through old drawers, because if you've got the right one, you could be sitting on a hidden fortune. Let's rewind to 1974. The Vietnam War was winding down, the Watergate scandal was shaking the nation, and inflation was creeping into the American economy. The U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins to keep up with daily transactions. Among them was the classic Lincoln penny, small, copper-colored, and seemingly insignificant. But beneath its humble appearance lies one of the most fascinating coin stories of the 20th century. The 1974 Lincoln penny, like its earlier and later versions, features the right-facing profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse side. His familiar face is accompanied by the words, "In God We Trust," above, "Liberty," to the left, and the date 1974 to the right. Just below the date, you might spot a tiny letter. This is the mint mark, and it's more important than most people realize. A D means it was minted in Denver. An S stands for San Francisco. And if there's no letter at all, that penny was made in Philadelphia. On the reverse side, you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, majestic, bold, and detailed enough that with the right magnification, you can even spot the tiny statue of Lincoln between the columns. The reverse also includes United States of America, E pluribus unum, and 1 cent. Classic, simple, and deeply American. But again, not all 1974 pennies were created equal. Here's where things get interesting. In 1974, the U.S. Mint was actually experimenting with different materials for pennies. At the time, copper prices were rising sharply, and there was concern that making pennies out of mostly copper was becoming too expensive. As a result, the mint began testing alternative metals, including aluminum. A few 1974 Lincoln pennies were struck in aluminum as part of a test run, but these never officially made it into circulation. Most were recalled, and many were destroyed, but a few slipped through the cracks. The 1974 aluminum penny is now the stuff of legend in the coin collecting world. It weighs significantly less than a regular copper penny and has a dull silver-gray appearance rather than the familiar reddish tone. These coins are so rare that only a few are known to exist, and legal battles have even surrounded their ownership. But let's bring our focus back to the more familiar copper versions. You might be surprised to learn that even among the standard 1974 pennies, those made from copper, there are rare versions with incredible value. What sets them apart are tiny, almost invisible differences, minting errors, die variations, or extremely high-quality uncirculated conditions. For example, some 1974 S-proof coins show signs of doubling, especially in the lettering on the front of the coin. These are called double die obverse, and they are extremely desirable to collectors. Others have die cracks, off-center strikes, or repunched mint marks. These may sound like small technical issues, but in the world of numismatics, they are what transform a coin from common to coveted. A 1974 penny with an obvious doubling error or a misprinted mint mark can instantly catch the attention of serious collectors and coin grading services. The condition of the coin plays a huge role in its value. Coins that were never used in circulation, known as mint state or uncirculated, retain their original luster and sharp details. These coins are rare because most pennies are tossed into pockets, dropped on sidewalks, or left to tarnish in change jars. But if your 1974 penny has been preserved in pristine condition, without scratches or wear, its value skyrockets, and here's the best part. While most 1974 pennies might be worth just a few cents, or maybe a few dollars if they're in great shape, there are some, very rare, highly graded, or featuring a rare error, that are worth far more. These coins are the dream finds. They're the ones that show up at major coin auctions and grab headlines, and now, the moment you've been waiting for. One of these incredibly rare 1974 Lincoln pennies, specifically a high-grade version with a rare mint error, possibly linked to the aluminum test series, was sold to a private collector for an eye-popping total of $66,000. That's right. A coin that says 1 cent on its face ended up being worth $66,000. So, the next time you get change back from the store or dump out a jar of old coins, don't ignore those Lincoln pennies. Especially not the ones from 1974. You never know when you might be holding a tiny, copper-colored fortune in the palm of your hand. Today's story is about one of the most common coins in your change, one you've probably seen dozens of times and never given a second thought to. But this time, you might want to take a closer look. We're talking about the 1976 Lincoln penny, a simple 1-cent coin that, in the right condition and with the right features, could be worth more than a brand new luxury car. That's right. You won't believe what this little coin might be hiding. Let's set the stage. It's 1976. America is celebrating its bicentennial, 200 years of independence. The entire nation is decked out in red, white, and blue. Fireworks light up the skies. Parades march through cities. Patriotism is everywhere. And while the U.S. Mint is busy producing special bicentennial quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins, something far less flashy is also rolling off the presses in massive numbers. The Lincoln penny, even though the penny didn't get a special bicentennial design like some other coins did that year, the 1976 Lincoln cent still holds a fascinating place in coin collecting history. Millions were struck and put into circulation, quietly slipping into pockets, cash registers, and piggy banks across the country. But here's the twist: not every 1976 penny is equal. In fact, some of them are incredibly rare, and even fewer are valuable beyond belief. Let's break down the basics. On the front of the 1976 penny, or what's known as the obverse, is the timeless profile of President Abraham Lincoln. It's been on the penny since 1909. Above his head is the phrase, "In God We Trust," to his left is the word, "Liberty," and to his right, you'll see the year, 1976. Just below the date, you might find a small letter, D for Denver, or an S for San Francisco. If there's no letter at all, that means it was minted in Philadelphia. Now flip the coin over, and there's the Lincoln Memorial, solid, stoic, and a true American symbol. It's detailed enough that if you look closely between the columns, you can even make out the tiny figure of Lincoln sitting inside, just like in the real monument in Washington. So what could possibly make this common coin so valuable? The secret lies in the details. Not all 1976 pennies were struck perfectly. And for coin collectors, imperfections are golden. That's where mint errors come into play, and they're the driving force behind why certain pennies are worth a fortune today. Some of the most valuable 1976 pennies feature what's known as a double die error. This happens when the coin is struck more than once by a misaligned die, causing the letters or numbers on the coin to appear doubled. Look closely at the words, "Liberty," or "In God We Trust," or even the date. If they look slightly shadowed or repeated, you might be holding something incredibly rare. Other errors include off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing because the coin wasn't perfectly aligned during minting. Or even repunched mint marks, where the mint mark appears to be stamped more than once in slightly different positions. These small flaws may not mean much to the average person, but in the coin world, they can turn a 1-cent coin into a highly valuable collectible. Of course, condition is everything. The shinier and cleaner your 1976 penny is, the better. Coins that have never been circulated, known as mint state or uncirculated, are the cream of the crop. They show no signs of wear, scratches, or damage. If you combine a rare mint error with a mint state condition, you've got a coin that could be worth far more than you'd ever expect. There's also the matter of proof coins. In 1976, the U.S. Mint created special proof sets for collectors, and these were mostly produced in San Francisco. These proof coins have a sharp, mirror-like finish and are struck with extra care. A 1976 S-proof penny with a rare error or in top condition can fetch a hefty price from the right collector, and let's not forget about unique metal compositions. While most 1976 pennies were made primarily of copper with a bit of zinc, any coin with a mistake in its metal blend, like an off-metal strike, would be exceptionally rare and valuable. These types of errors don't happen often, but when they do, they create the kind of coin that collectors dream about. Now, here's the part you've been waiting for. All of this begs one important question: just how much can a rare 1976 Lincoln penny actually be worth? Well, it depends on a few things: the mint mark, the presence of any errors, the grade or condition, and whether it's a proof coin. But one 1976 Lincoln penny, featuring a significant doubling error and graded at a top mint state level, was sold in a private auction for the jaw-dropping amount of $64,000. That's right. $64,000. For a coin that most people would walk right past on the sidewalk without a second glance. So before you toss that handful of change onto the counter or drop your spare pennies into a tip jar, take a second to check the date. Pull out a magnifying glass. Look for a mint mark. Look for errors. Because you never know, the next big discovery in your life might be sitting quietly at the bottom of your coin jar, just waiting to be noticed. Today's story is going to change the way you look at coins forever. Because what if I told you that a simple, copper-colored penny from 1978 could be worth a small fortune? That something so common could secretly be one of the rarest coins hiding in plain sight? Stick with me, because we're about to unlock the mystery of the 1978 Lincoln penny, and the secret behind its astonishing value. Now let's take a quick journey back in time. It's the late 1970s. Disco is at its peak, gas is under $1, and the Star Wars phenomenon is taking the world by storm. Meanwhile, over at the U.S. Mint, billions of Lincoln pennies are being struck, just as they had been every year since 1909. Most people were focused on inflation and a shaky economy, not on the tiny coins jingling in their pockets. But as the mint continued its work, a few exceptional coins were created. And among them, a handful of 1978 pennies quietly became some of the most sought after by collectors today. Let's talk about the basics first. The 1978 Lincoln penny features the familiar face of President Abraham Lincoln, facing right, on the front of the coin. Above him reads the phrase, "In God We Trust." To the left, you'll see "Liberty," and to the right, the year, 1978. Just beneath the date, depending on where the coin was minted, you might see a tiny letter. A D means the coin was struck in Denver, and an S stands for San Francisco. If there's no letter, it came from the Philadelphia Mint. Now flip the coin over and you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, an enduring symbol of American strength and dignity. Look closely between the pillars, and you'll see a tiny seated statue of Lincoln himself. It's a design packed with history, detail, and meaning, but what most people don't know is that some of these coins contain far more than just copper and zinc. They contain secrets. So, what makes a 1978 penny valuable? After all, billions were made that year, right? True, but only a few were born different. One of the main reasons some 1978 pennies are worth big money has to do with mint errors. These are rare mistakes made during the coin's production. Now, these errors aren't intentional, but when they happen, they create coins that collectors absolutely love. Why? Because they're unique. They're one-of-a-kind accidents that turn an everyday coin into something truly extraordinary. Take the double die error, for example. This occurs when the coin is struck more than once by a misaligned die, causing parts of the design to appear doubled, like a shadowy echo of the original print. On the 1978 penny, this doubling might show up in the word "Liberty," or "In God We Trust," or even in the numbers of the date. Spotting one of these rare double dies requires a sharp eye and maybe a magnifying glass, but the reward could be huge. Another rare feature to look for is an off-center strike, where the design is clearly shifted to one side. These are the kinds of coins you'll notice instantly. Part of Lincoln's head might be missing, or the lettering might be cut off. As strange as these may look, collectors are willing to pay a premium for them, especially if the date is still visible. Then there's the repunched mint mark, another minting anomaly where the mint mark appears to have been stamped twice, slightly misaligned. These are subtle, easy to miss details, but in the world of coin collecting, they can make all the difference, and we can't forget about condition. Most pennies that end up in your pocket or wallet show signs of wear, scratches, or discoloration. But a 1978 penny that has never been used, that's known as a mint state or uncirculated coin, is a whole different story. These coins retain their original luster, sharp edges, and full details. When you combine that kind of pristine condition with a rare mint error, you've got a coin that collectors are willing to fight over. Even rarer are the proof coins. These special coins are struck with extra care for collectors and never meant for everyday use. They're usually made at the San Francisco Mint and marked with an S. If you ever come across a 1978 S-proof penny with an unusual error or in flawless condition, don't take it lightly. It could be a major find. But what about metal composition? Well, while 1978 pennies were still mostly made from 95% copper, with 5% zinc, any deviation from this formula, like a transitional error where the wrong metal was used, would make the coin astronomically rare. These kinds of mistakes are extremely rare, but not impossible, and if found, they can turn an ordinary penny into a coin collector's holy grail. So how do you know if your 1978 penny is valuable? Start by looking closely at the date and mint mark. Then check for doubling, off-center strikes, or unusual textures. If the coin looks extra shiny or unused, that's another great sign. If you suspect you found something special, your next step should be to get it graded by a professional coin grading service. They'll tell you exactly what you have, and how rare it is. Now here's the moment you've been waiting for. While most 1978 pennies are worth, well, 1 cent, a few have shocked the collecting world with their rarity and value. And one such penny, featuring a dramatic double die error, struck in flawless condition and certified at a top mint state level, was purchased at a private auction for an astonishing $60,000. Yes, you heard that right. $60,000. For a single penny. So before you toss that change into a tip jar, or drop your coins into a vending machine, take one more look. Because you just might be holding a tiny piece of American history, and a hidden fortune, in the palm of your hand. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about valuable coins you might already own, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell so you never miss a discovery that could change your life. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy hunting. Today we're talking about a coin that's easy to overlook but impossible to forget once you know its secret. It's small, copper-colored, and says 1 cent on it, but in the right condition, it could be worth tens of thousands of dollars. Yes, you heard that right. Today, we're diving into the mystery and value behind the 1975 Lincoln penny. This might just be the most exciting penny you never paid attention to. Now, you might be wondering, what could possibly make a penny from 1975 so valuable? Aren't there billions of those lying around in drawers, jars, and pockets? The answer is yes, but only a few of them are not like the others. And it's those rare few that are sending shockwaves through the world of coin collectors. Let's take a step back to 1975. America was in the middle of change. The Vietnam War had officially ended, the Watergate scandal was still fresh in people's minds, and a new chapter was beginning. Meanwhile, at the U.S. Mint, coin production was business as usual. Billions of Lincoln pennies were being struck at facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Most of these coins were used to buy candy, pay for parking, or disappear into change trays, never to be thought about again. But every once in a while, something remarkable happened. The 1975 Lincoln penny, like its counterparts from other years, features the side profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, or front. Above his head is the phrase, "In God We Trust," and to the left, you'll find the word "Liberty." To the right is the date, 1975, and just below it, if you're lucky, a mint mark. If you see a D, that means the coin was minted in Denver. An S indicates San Francisco. If there's no letter, it came from Philadelphia. These tiny mint marks can make a huge difference in value, so they're always worth checking. Flip the coin over, and you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, standing tall and proud on the reverse side. Look closely between the columns, and you'll see a tiny representation of Lincoln's statue, an incredible detail that often goes unnoticed. But what really makes certain 1975 pennies stand out has nothing to do with the memorial, it has everything to do with mistakes. That's right, errors. Mint errors are like golden tickets for coin collectors. They're accidents, slight misalignments, doubling of letters or numbers, off-center strikes, or even misused metal. While these errors were never intentional, they've become some of the most prized pieces in the entire world of numismatics. And guess what? Some 1975 Lincoln pennies have these very mistakes. One of the most sought-after types is the double die, a coin where the text or numbers look like they've been stamped twice. On a 1975 penny, this can appear in the words "Liberty" or "In God We Trust," or even in the date itself. These errors are rare and not always visible to the naked eye, so a magnifying glass or loupe is your best friend when coin hunting. Another valuable error is the off-center strike. If the coin looks like the design is shifted or cut off on one side, that's a major collector's item, especially if the date is still fully visible. Combine that with a high-grade condition, and you're looking at a coin that could be worth thousands. Now, let's talk about condition. It's not just the error that counts, the state of the coin is equally important. Coins that have never been circulated, meaning they were never used in everyday transactions, are called mint state or uncirculated. These coins retain their original shine and details and are far more valuable than those that have been in pockets and cash registers for decades. If you've got a 1975 penny with a rare error and it's in mint condition, that's the magic combo collectors dream of. But wait, there's more. Some proof coins, those specially made for collectors, were minted in San Francisco and carry an S mint mark. These have a mirror-like finish and sharper details than regular coins. While most proof coins are well documented, occasionally, a rare variation escapes the mint's control. These are the types of surprises that make coin collecting so thrilling. So how do you know if your 1975 penny is worth keeping, or better yet, getting professionally appraised? First, check for a mint mark and inspect the coin for any unusual features. Look for doubling, off-center designs, or unusual coloration. Next, assess the condition. If it still shines and shows no signs of wear, you might be holding something rare. And finally, compare it with verified auction listings or send it to a reputable coin grading service. The truth is, most people will handle a 1975 penny dozens of times in their life and never think twice. But a few sharp-eyed collectors have spotted the details that others miss, and they've been rewarded beyond belief. And now for the moment you've been waiting for. One of the rarest 1975 Lincoln pennies ever discovered, featuring a highly noticeable mint error and preserved in immaculate condition, was sold in a private sale for an astonishing total of $68,000. Yes, you heard that right. A penny. 1 cent worth $68,000. So, before you toss your coins into the change jar, take a moment to check the dates. That tiny disc in your palm might be a piece of American history, and maybe even a ticket to your next big payday.